You ever hear that thing kids used to do, standing under a street lamp at night, checking if their shadow looked normal? We did that all the time growing up. It was dumb fun, until it wasn't. I was never afraid of the dark. I grew up in a small Kansas town, where people left their doors unlocked and porch lights stayed on all night. Shadows were just part of life. You saw them, you ignored them, until mine started acting weird. It began with something tiny. One night, I was walking back from my shift at the diner. It was almost 1 a.m., the air thick with humidity and summer crickets. I passed the corner of 8th and Willow, where the old streetlight flickered above the cracked pavement. As I walked beneath it, I noticed my shadow lagging behind. I stopped. So did it. I turned. It didn't. At least not immediately. It stood still for maybe half a second longer, then jerked into place like a puppet catching up. I laughed it off. Told myself I was overtired, maybe imagining things. Shadows can play tricks under flickering light. That's what I told myself. But the next night, it got worse. I made a point to look for it, half expecting it to behave just fine. Instead, it stretched too far behind me, like someone tall was mimicking my movement with a delay. I raised my hand. The shadow's hand jerked up too, half a second too late. It had the shape of me, but it wasn't moving like me. The scariest part? No one else seemed to notice. I brought it up to my roommate, Troy. He laughed, said I needed sleep. Maybe I did. I hadn't been sleeping well. Not since the noises started. That's right. There were noises too. Scraping under the floorboards. Tapping on the mirror. Whispering in the walls. All at night. Always after midnight. I started testing it. My shadow, Every night, under that same street lamp, I do different movements. Quick waves, sudden turns. And always, the shadow copied them, but late. Not delayed, but resistant. Like it didn't want to follow but had no choice. On the 4th night, I brought my phone and filmed it. But when I played it back, my shadow looked perfectly normal. No lag. No delay. No strange movements. I must have watched that video 50 times. Each time, it looked like nothing was wrong. But when I stood there, in person, I could feel it was wrong. I don't know how to explain that. It's like looking at a reflection and realizing the thing inside the mirror is looking at you differently than you look at it. I didn't tell Troy again. I didn't tell anyone. But I started turning on every light in the house. I moved my bed away from the window. I avoided mirrors after dark. You ever feel like your own body's betraying you? That's how I felt. Like my shadow was plotting something behind my back. And then, one night, I woke up to find it standing at the foot of my bed. Not attached to me. Just standing there. It moved its head slightly. And smiled. I shot upright in bed, blinking fast. My room was empty. No shadow. No figure at the foot of my bed. Just moonlight coming through the blinds and the sound of Troy snoring down the hall. I sat there for a while, clutching my phone like a weapon, until the sky outside started to lighten. When I finally got up, I walked slowly to the mirror in the hallway, half expecting not to see myself at all. But there I was, disheveled, pale, hollow-eyed. And behind me, my shadow. It stood perfectly in sync with me, as if nothing had ever happened. But I knew better now. That thing could detach. It did detach. And it had smiled at me. It didn't stop after that. Every few nights, I'd catch it, just for a second, moving on its own. One time I tripped coming up the stairs, and I swear to God, my shadow didn't fall with me. It just stood there, perfectly upright, like it was watching me from another layer of reality. Troy noticed I was acting off. He joked about calling a priest. I told him I might beat him to it. But I didn't call anyone. Who would believe me? Instead, I did what any terrified idiot does. I Googled it. Shadow moving independently. Shadow detaching. Haunted by your own shadow. Most of it was nonsense. Reddit posts, old folklore, and creepypasta. But one post stood out. It was from a user called Lingerlight, posted 2 years ago. It read, "If your shadow ever starts moving on its own, get out of the house. It's testing boundaries. If you see it smile, don't run. Don't scream. Just act normal. Don't give it attention. And whatever you do, never walk into a dark room alone." I messaged them immediately. No reply. Their account hadn't been active in over a year. I didn't know if it was a prank or a cry for help, but it felt too real to ignore. So I made a plan. I stopped walking past that streetlight. I never turned off the lights in my room. I kept my back to the wall whenever I could. But it didn't help. The thing had found its way in. One night, I woke up to find every light in the apartment off. I knew I hadn't turned them off. I sleep with the hallway light on, always. But now, darkness. Thick, unnatural darkness. I reached for my phone. Dead. Tried the lamp. Nothing. Tried the switch by the door. Nothing. Power outage? Maybe. But the air felt wrong. Cold. Heavy. That's when I heard it. The soft sound of footsteps. But not normal footsteps. It was like something dragging itself across the hardwood floor. Slow. Deliberate. It came from the living room. I pressed my back against the wall and crept toward the door. My eyes had started to adjust, and that's when I saw it. My shadow, slithering along the wall ahead of me. It didn't move like a person. It moved like liquid ink across the surface. Stretching. Twisting. I stopped breathing. Then it stopped too. And looked at me. No face. Just the suggestion of a head turning, shoulders lifting. Like it knew I was watching. Then it did something impossible. It stepped out of the wall. Its body rose from the surface like smoke congealing into a person. I couldn't move. My body was frozen, every muscle screaming to run but locked in place. It was me. My shape. My height. But it wasn't me. Its eyes were hollow sockets of crawling shadow, and its mouth opened in a soundless scream. Then, just as fast, it melted back into the wall. The lights flicked on. My phone buzzed with notifications. And I collapsed. I stayed in bed the whole next day. Troy knocked twice. I told him I had a migraine. Truth was, I couldn't stand to look at light, shadows, or myself. When the sun finally set, I taped every window in my room, stuffed towels under the door, and turned every lamp on high. But shadows crept in anyway. Under my bed. Behind the dresser. At the corner of my vision. I saw them twitch. Not flicker. Twitch. I barely slept. When I did, I dreamed of sinking into the floor, my limbs gone numb, my mouth sewn shut, while something watched me from inside the walls. When I woke, there were scratches on the inside of my closet door. 3 vertical lines, etched into the wood. Like claw marks. And I don't have a pet. That morning, I made a decision. I was going to leave the apartment. Stay somewhere else. Maybe go home to my mom's place, even though I hadn't spoken to her in months. Maybe just drive. But as I packed, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You're not sick. It's choosing you. Step into its place and it'll stop. My throat closed. I stared at the screen. No contact. No reply button. The message disappeared seconds later. I showed it to Troy, but it was gone. He was starting to get concerned. You're shaking, dude. Seriously. Talk to someone. Doctor, priest, I don't care. He offered to stay with me that night, but I said no. I didn't want anyone else near it. I didn't know what step into its place meant, but I didn't want Troy to be the one it chose next. That night, I tested something. I stood under a bright lamp and tried to walk away from my shadow. And I swear, just for a second, it stayed behind. It didn't follow. It stood rooted to the ground, like a burned outline of my body refusing to move. I walked in a circle. The shadow twisted, following me a beat too late. I raised my hand quickly. It flinched, like it had thoughts of its own now. Fierce. I whispered to it. Who are you? It shifted, and then it lifted its own hand, a moment before I lifted mine. I wasn't leading anymore. It was. That night I dreamed again. I was underwater, in pitch blackness. I couldn't breathe. Something held my limbs down. But there was a mirror floating in front of me. And in the mirror, my reflection was smiling. Grinning from ear to ear, eyes pitch black. It reached through the glass and pulled me in. I woke up gasping. My bed sheets were soaked. The mirror in my room had cracked. A single fracture down the center. Right through where my reflection's face would be. That day I got a second message. This time scribbled, burned, into the wall behind the bathroom mirror. One of you must remain. I didn't write that. Troy didn't write that. And I didn't have guests. But the worst part? There was no shadow when I saw it. My reflection was there. But no shadow. Not behind me. Not on the counter. Nowhere. Like it had finally left me. Or worse. Like it was waiting for me somewhere else. I left the apartment that night. Packed a duffel with clothes, my laptop, and a flashlight. Troy was out, probably with his girlfriend, and I didn't want to explain. Didn't want to lie. Didn't want to see a shadow, just in case it was starting to spread. I drove without direction for over 2 hours. Past cornfields, empty gas stations, and blinking traffic lights that felt more like warnings than signals. At some point, I found myself on a road I didn't recognize. One lane, no signs. Just trees on either side, thick, tall, dark. I didn't remember turning onto it. I pulled over. Checked the GPS. Nothing. No location. Just a blank white circle spinning and spinning. My phone buzzed. Come home. We're waiting. No contact. No history. I turned the car around. But the road behind me? Gone. There was only forest. And my reflection in the rearview mirror was smiling again. I drove forward, because what else could I do? Eventually, I reached something, an old wooden house, 2 stories high, its windows dark and lifeless. It looked abandoned. But I knew I had to go in. I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't like I was being drawn toward it. It was like I already lived there. Like I'd always lived there. I stepped inside. The door creaked behind me. Dust hung in the air like breath. The floor groaned under my weight. I passed old furniture, draped in white sheets, until I came to a hallway lined with mirrors. Dozens of them. Different shapes and sizes. And in every mirror, there I was. But not quite me. One had my reflection smiling with sharpened teeth. Another had me turned slightly away, watching from the corner of its eye. A third one was empty. And one didn't reflect me at all. It reflected the shadow. Black. Full-bodied. Standing where I stood. Moving when I didn't. It lifted its hand. I didn't. Then it stepped forward. And the mirror shattered. Glass rained down around me. I turned to run, but the hallway was gone. There was only darkness behind me. Black as tar. Not natural. Not even absence of light, something else. Like a living void. I stepped backward and hit something solid. It was the shadow. My shadow. Only it wasn't flat anymore. It was flesh and height and breadth and weight. And it was smiling. The same smile I'd seen in every mirror. It spoke. Its voice sounded like mine, but deeper, hollow, like it echoed from inside a cave. You took the light for granted. I waited in the dark. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I bore your weight. Your fear. Your loneliness. And now, I want to switch. Its eyes opened. Not glowing, just open. Like 2 pits in a starless sky. I tried to run. It grabbed my wrist. Its hand was cold. But not from temperature, cold like it drained something out of me on contact. My breath hitched. My vision blurred. The mirrors lit up again. All of them. And in each one, I saw myself fading. Growing more transparent. While the shadow grew realer. Brighter. It was becoming me. I don't remember collapsing. I don't remember screaming. All I know is that when I opened my eyes again, I was outside the house. Dawn had started to rise, casting long yellow rays across the forest road. I was lying on the pavement, clothes torn, knuckles scraped, throat raw. My car sat nearby, idling like it had never been moved. And behind me? No house. Just trees. I stumbled to the driver's seat, drove straight to a public gas station, and locked myself in the restroom. Then I looked in the mirror. And I saw it. The face staring back at me wasn't mine. Not quite. It was off. The eyes too wide. The expression too calm. No blinking. No breath. No light behind the gaze. I raised my hand slowly. My reflection raised it before me. I turned. The reflection didn't. I smiled. It didn't. Since that day, something's been wrong. People notice it too. Troy's been distant. He asked if I was on something. Said I'd been sleepwalking. Mumbling in my sleep. One night he even heard me laughing in the shower. I haven't used the shower in 3 days. Sometimes I find things moved around the house. Drawers open. Windows unlocked. Light bulbs unscrewed. And I don't remember doing any of it. Worse, my shadow? It's back. But not where it should be. Sometimes it's a step ahead. Sometimes it doesn't follow me at all. Sometimes I see it just standing across the room watching. Like it got what it wanted, and now it's keeping me here. I don't think I made it out of that house. I think it did. Last night I recorded myself while I slept. When I played the footage back, I saw myself get out of bed at 3:11 a.m., walk to the living room, and sit on the couch. Then I just sat there. For 4 hours. Unmoving. Eyes wide open. Smiling. At nothing. I've started to forget things. Words. Names. Memories. I looked at a photo of my mom yesterday and couldn't remember her voice. I don't think I'm me anymore. Not fully. I think my shadow slipped inside when I hesitated. I think I left the door open too long. I don't know how much longer I have. But I need to warn someone before it's too late. If your shadow starts acting strange. If it moves when you don't. If it smiles. Do not engage. Do not follow it. Do not run. Because if it wants to trade places, it already knows how to get in. All it needs is for you to look away.